clock screamed at 6:30, just like it did every weekday morning. I slapped the button, silencing the noise, but the quiet that followed felt just as heavy. Another day. I swung my legs out of bed, the floor cold under my feet. Getting ready felt like moving through thick water, slow, heavy, automatic. Shower, teeth, clothes. The reflection in the bathroom mirror showed a tired face, eyes that didn't quite look bright. I quickly looked away. There wasn't time to think about it. My small apartment was quiet as I made toast and coffee. I used to hum a little tune while the coffee brewed. Maybe look out the window at the city waking up. Now I just stood there, waiting. The toast tasted like cardboard, but I ate it anyway. Fuel. That's what it was. Just fuel to get through the day. The commute was the same. Crowded bus, blank faces staring ahead or down at phones. I used to listen to music, something cheerful. Now the silence of my headphones felt safer, easier. No energy required. Pushing through the glass, doors of the office building felt familiar, but not good, just familiar. Good morning, the security guard said. I managed a small nod, maybe a quiet morning, but my voice felt rusty. I didn't look at him properly. I kept my gaze down as I walked to the elevator, pushed the button for the 4th floor, and waited. Inside the elevator, I stood in the keep my bun corner, hoping no one would try to talk to me. Our office isn't large, just one floor with maybe 20 people. Desks are arranged in neat rows. The carpet is a practical grey, and the only real colour comes from a few sad-looking plants near the window. It used to feel brighter, or maybe I used to feel brighter. I remember walking in, saying hello to Sarah at reception, waving at Mark near the coffee machine, maybe even sharing a quick joke with Leo 2 desks down. My smile used to be ready, easy. People said I had a nice smile. Where did it go? I reached my desk, slipped my bag under it, and turned on my computer. The screen remained dark for a few seconds. A perfect mirror, and there it was again. My face. Serious. Lines of tiredness around my eyes. Lips pressed together in a neutral, maybe even unhappy line. No smile. Not even a hint of one. It wasn't just a passing bad mood, I thought back. When was the last time I really smiled? A genuine, happy smile that reached my eyes. Weeks ago, maybe longer. It felt like trying to remember a dream, fuzzy and distant. The thought hit me with surprising force. I lost my smile. It sounded dramatic, maybe silly, but sitting there, staring at my own reflection, it felt deeply, unsettlingly true. Why? The answer wasn't hard to find. The Redwood Project. It landed on my desk 2 months ago, big and complicated, and important. The deadline felt impossible from the start. Long hours became the norm, working through lunch, staying late, even thinking about it on weekends. The pressure felt constant, a tight knot in my stomach that never fully went away. I'm usually good at my job. I like solving problems, organising tasks. I'm rational. I know pressure is part of work. But this project, it was different. It seemed to suck all the air out of the room. decided to stop smiling. It just faded away like a photograph left in the sun. I looked around the office. People were arriving, settling in. The usual morning sounds, keyboards clicking, quiet chatter, the whir of the coffee machine. Leo walked past, carrying 2 mugs. He glanced over. "Morning, Maya," he said, his usual friendly tone. "Morning, Leo," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. I forced my lips to curve slightly upwards, but I knew it wasn't real. It felt like putting on a mask, and a poorly made one at that. He gave me a small, slightly questioning look before heading to his desk. Did he notice? Did anyone? Or was I just another tired face in a busy office? The computer screen finally lit up, showing my emails, my task list, the mountain of work waiting for the Redwood Project. My reflection disappeared, replaced by the demands of the day, but the thought lingered, heavy and cold inside me. I had lost something important, something that was part of me, and now, faced with another long day of pressure and tasks, I had absolutely no idea how to find it again. The weight of that missing smile felt heavier than any project deadline. The days that followed blurred into one long stretch of grey. That heavy feeling I woke up with in chapter 1 didn't lift. If anything, it settled deeper. The Redwood Project felt like a shadow looming over my desk, over my whole life. My task list grew longer each day, not shorter. Emails piled up faster than I could answer them. Every time I crossed one item off my list, 2 more seemed to appear. Focusing became difficult. I'd stare at the spreadsheets, the reports, the technical drawings, and sometimes the words and numbers would just swim in front of my eyes. My brain felt foggy, slow. "Think, Maya, think," I tell myself. "You know how to do this. Just break it down." I tried all my usual methods, making lists, setting small goals, prioritizing tasks, but even simple things felt like climbing a steep hill. The energy just wasn't there. Lunchtime offered no real break. I used to enjoy going out, maybe finding a little park nearby or trying a new sandwich shop. Sometimes a few colleagues, and I would eat together in the break room, chatting about anything but work. Now I quickly ate a pre-packed sandwich at my desk, staring blankly at my monitor. Sometimes I'd hear laughter from the break room down the hall. It sounded distant, like it was coming from another world, a world I didn't belong to anymore. It was easier to stay put, avoid the effort of conversation, avoid pretending everything was fine. It took too much energy I needed for the project. Leo tried, bless him. He seemed to be the only one who consistently noticed I wasn't myself. One morning, he stopped by my desk, holding out a small chocolate bar. "Rough morning?" he asked gently. "Thought you might need this." I looked up, surprised. "Oh, thanks, Leo," I mumbled, taking it. My fingers felt clumsy. "How's the Redwood monster treating you?" he asked, keeping his voice low. "It's big," I said, unable to think of anything else. "Say something more, Maya," a small voice urged. "Tell him it's overwhelming." But the words wouldn't come. It felt too complicated, too much like admitting defeat. "Busy," I added, turning back to my screen, hoping he'd take the hint. He lingered for a second. "Okay, well," Let me know if you need anything, he said, then walked back to his own desk. I unwrapped the chocolate, but didn't eat it. It just sat there, a small, kind gesture I didn't know how to accept. Later that week, he asked, "Everything all right, Maya? You seem very quiet these days." "Just focused on the project," I replied automatically. "Lots to do." I kept my eyes fixed on my work. It was a shield. If I didn't look up, I didn't have to see the concern in his eyes. I didn't have to explain the hollow feeling inside. Me, the place where my smile used to be. Avoiding the conversation felt rational. I needed to conserve energy, avoid distractions. But deep down, it just made the feeling of isolation worse. The project deadline loomed closer. It was marked in red on my digital calendar, a constant, glaring reminder. Only 3 weeks left. Panic started to bubble beneath the surface of my exhaustion. "I'm not going to make it," the thought whispered late one evening as I stared at a complex section of the report I still hadn't figured out. I pushed the thought away. No, be rational. You just need to work harder. Stay later. So, I stayed later. Most evenings, I was one of the last people to leave. The office grew quiet around me. The bright overhead lights seemed harsher. The silence, amplifying the ticking clock on the wall. Sometimes Sarah, the receptionist, would wave goodbye, her expression sympathetic. "Don't work too hard, Maya," she'd say. I'd force another weak imitation of a smile. Walking home in the dark, the streetlights casting long shadows, I felt drained, empty. The weight I'd felt that first morning, realizing my smile was gone, had grown heavier. It wasn't just a smile anymore. It felt like I was fading, becoming as grey and tired as the office carpet, trapped in an endless cycle of work and worry. And the deadline kept creeping closer, day by relentless day. Something had to give. I just didn't know what. The clock on my computer screen showed 7:48 p.m. Outside, the city lights twinkled against a dark sky. Inside, the office was silent, except for the low hum of my computer and the frantic beating of my own heart. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Only my desk lamp cast a pool of light in the surrounding gloom. My eyes burned from staring at the screen, and a dull headache throbbed behind my temples. The Redwood Project deadline was now less than 2 weeks away, and I was stuck on a critical section. The final budget calculations. Numbers swam before my eyes. Columns blurred together. I knew this part was crucial. One wrong calculation could throw the entire project proposal off. "Focus, Maya," I commanded myself, blinking hard. "Just double-check everything." I had been working on this specific spreadsheet for 3 hours straight, fueled only by lukewarm coffee and sheer willpower. My rational mind knew I was too tired, that I should stop, go home, and look at it with fresh eyes tomorrow. But the panic wouldn't let me. The fear of failure pushed me onward. I highlighted a row of figures, ready to copy them into the summary sheet. My finger hovered over the mouse. Was it the right row? It looked right. My tired brain insisted it was right. Click, copy, click, paste. I saved the document, leaning back in my chair with a sigh that felt more like exhaustion than relief. Maybe, just maybe, I could finish finish this section tonight. Then, a flicker of doubt. Something felt off. I opened the original data file again, my stomach tightening. I scrolled down, comparing the numbers side by side with the summary sheet. My blood ran cold. It wasn't the right row. I had copied the projected expenses from the previous quarter, not the current estimates. It was a huge mistake, buried deep, within dozens of interconnected formulas. Fixing it wouldn't be quick. It would mean recalculating almost everything that followed. No, I whispered, the sound loud in the empty office. No, no, no. Tears prickled behind my eyes. Hot shame washed over me. How could I have done that? I, who always prided myself on being careful, meticulous, all those extra hours, all the skipped lunches, all the worry, and I still made such a stupid, careless mistake. The exhaustion I'd been fighting suddenly crashed down on me, overwhelming and complete. I put my head in my hands, the tears starting to fall. I felt utterly alone, completely defeated, a failure. I don't know how long I sat there, shoulders shaking silently. The logical part of my brain was screaming about how unprofessional this was, how I needed to pull myself together and fix it. But the tired, overwhelmed part just felt broken. Suddenly, a soft click echoed from the direction of the office entrance. My head snapped up. Had someone come back? Standing in the dim light near the doorway was Leo. He must have forgotten something. He looked surprised to see me, his expression quickly turning to concern as he took in my tear-streaked face and the desperate mess of papers around my keyboard. He didn't rush over or bombard me with questions. He just walked quietly towards my desk. For a moment, he simply stood there, looking not at me, but at the complex spreadsheet glowing on my screen. That Redwood budget looks like a real beast, he said calmly, his voice gentle. He wasn't judging, he was just stating a fact. Then he looked at me, his eyes kind. Hey, he said softly, how about we take a break? Just 5 minutes. I was about to grab a coffee from the machine downstairs. Want one? His offer hung in the air. It wasn't pity. It wasn't an invasive, what's wrong? It was simple, practical kindness. My first instinct, born from weeks of isolation and embarrassment, was to refuse. No, I'm fine. I can handle it. The words formed in my head. Showing weakness felt like failing even more. But looking at Leo's calm, friendly face, something inside me cracked. The rational wall I had built around myself crumbled. I was not fine. I couldn't handle it alone right now. The thought of just 5 minutes away from the screen, maybe a sip of something warm, felt like a lifeline. I hesitated, biting my lip. Admitting I needed help felt incredibly difficult, but the thought of continuing alone felt impossible. I took a shaky breath. I looked up at him, meeting his gaze properly, for the first time in what felt like weeks. Yes. I managed to whisper, my voice thick with unshed tears. Yes, please. Coffee sounds good. I paused, then added quietly, the admission feeling both terrifying and relieving. I think I made a big mistake. Leo just nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He didn't say, "I told you so," or "Don't worry." He just offered a small, reassuring smile. A real one, not like the fake ones I'd been attempting. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a tiny spark, not of happiness, but of something else. Hope. Leo returned a few minutes later with 2 steaming mugs. He didn't hand mine over immediately, but gestured towards the small, usually empty, seating area near the windows, away from our desks. "Let's sit over here for a minute," he suggested, away from the scene of the crime. His attempt at a light tone didn't completely hide his concern, but it helped break the tension slightly. We sat down on the slightly uncomfortable chairs. The coffee was hot and strong, and just holding the warm mug felt grounding. I took a sip, the warmth spreading through me. For a few moments, we just sat in silence, looking out at the city lights. It was the first time in weeks I had paused like this during work hours, especially when things felt urgent. "So," Leo said finally, keeping his voice low, "you copied the wrong quarter's figures." I nodded, feeling the shame rise again, but the tears had stopped. "Yes, right into the summary. Everything after that is wrong now. It's a mess." My voice was still shaky. Leo didn't sigh or look annoyed. He just took another sip of his coffee. "Okay," he said calmly. "That sounds frustrating, especially when you're this tired. But it's fixable, Maya." He leaned forward slightly. "What's the first step? Find the original correct data." "Yes," I admitted. "Then replace the wrong row. Then manually check every formula that pulls from that summary." My mind started racing again, listing the tasks. "Right," Leo interrupted gently. "But not tonight. Look at you, Maya. You're exhausted. You'll make more mistakes if you keep pushing now. The most rational thing you can do," he emphasized the word rational, maybe knowing how I like to think of myself, "is go home, get some sleep, come back tomorrow morning, maybe a little early if you want, and fix it with a clear head. It will probably take half the time." He was right. My logical brain knew he was right. Pushing through exhaustion had caused the mistake in the first place. Trying to fix it now, in this state, was asking for more trouble. It was hard to let go. Hard to accept leaving the mistake unfixed overnight. But the thought of sleep, of escape, was incredibly tempting. And Leo's calm confidence that it was fixable, that it wasn't the end of the world, made it feel possible. "Okay," I agreed, the word feeling heavy with relief. "Okay, tomorrow morning." Leo finished his coffee. "Good. Now back up. I'll walk you to the elevator." Next morning, after a solid, dreamless sleep, I arrived at the office before anyone else. The early morning light felt softer, calmer than the harsh fluorescent glare of the previous night. I sat down, took a deep breath, and opened the Redwood budget file. With a clearer head, the mistake seemed less monstrous. I found the correct data, carefully replaced the incorrect row, and systematically worked through the dependent formulas. It took concentration, but it wasn't the disaster I had imagined. By the time Leo arrived with his usual morning coffee, I had fixed it. The immediate crisis was over. "All sorted?" he asked quietly, noticing the less stressed set of my shoulders. "Yes," I said, managing a small, tired, but genuine nod of thanks. Thank you, Leo, for the coffee and the perspective. Anytime, he replied simply, giving me a warm look before heading to his desk. That evening, sitting alone with the mistake behind me was a turning point. Not just because the problem was solved, but because I realised something important. Leo hadn't magically fixed my spreadsheet. He had offered support, a moment of calm, and a sensible perspective that allowed me to fix it. I hadn't failed by accepting help. I had made a smart choice. I saw that pushing myself relentlessly, cutting myself off, hadn't made me stronger or more efficient. It had just made me tired, lonely, and prone to errors. It had stolen my smile. In the days that followed, I started making small changes. Deliberately, rationally, I began taking a real lunch break, even if it was just 15 minutes sitting on a bench outside the building, feeling the sun on my face. I started leaving the office closer to the actual end of the workday, accepting that the project would get done without sacrificing every waking hour. When Leo said hello, I made eye contact and offered a proper reply, sometimes even asking him how his day was going. It wasn't easy. The pressure was still there, the workload still heavy, but it felt different, more manageable. I felt less alone with it. One afternoon, a week later, Leo stopped by my desk again. He held up his phone, showing me a picture. "Look what my cat did to my keyboard this morning," he chuckled. The photo showed a fluffy ginger cat sprawled dramatically across the keys, looking utterly unconcerned. I looked at the ridiculous picture, the cat's smug face, the upside-down keyboard, and something unexpected happened. A real smile spread across my face. It wasn't forced or tired. It felt warm, light, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside that hadn't felt anything good in a long time. It reached my eyes. Leo smiled back, a genuine, happy smile. "There it is," he said softly. My smile faltered slightly, feeling a little self-conscious, but it didn't disappear. It felt new again. Fragile, maybe, but real. I finally understood. My smile hadn't just been lost somewhere, like a dropped coin. I had stopped making space for it. I had stopped nurturing the small things. Connection, rest, a moment of shared laughter that allowed it to exist. The Redwood Project would eventually end, but the real lesson wasn't just about surviving the workload. It was about learning to keep a little light on inside, even when things felt dark. It was about remembering that asking for help wasn't weakness, and that sometimes the most rational thing to do is to allow yourself a moment of simple human connection. The path back to feeling like myself felt long, but for the first time, I believed I could walk it, and I knew now that I didn't have to walk it entirely alone.